Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far, and today is the day. It's time for the 2020 yearly favorites, everything that I have absolutely loved, the best of the best from this year's collections. And let me tell you, I have been strict. I did not go nuts. I didn't want to include everything I've enjoyed this year. So that's a quick disclaimer for you, that if you're thinking, hang on a minute, what about this? What about that you said you really liked? Well, I have been strict. I didn't want to include everything that I've liked this year because that's just going to be a list of everything that I've used and reviewed. So I feel like that's not very helpful. I went through and I was brutal and I just picked the absolute peaks, the absolute favorites out of everything. In each category, I've picked the absolute top. So it's not everything I've liked or even everything I've loved. It is a very select number of products that have been the absolute loves of my life this year from the products that came out in 2020. So yeah, it's not everything I've enjoyed, but it is the things I've enjoyed the most, if that makes sense. So let's get started, and we're going to start off with foundations. I have 5 foundations out of those that I've reviewed this year to tell you about. The first up being the Tom Ford Shade and Illuminate. This is the foundation I'm wearing today. It's my holy grail. It's my favorite foundation of all time. I'm obsessed with it. I have it in my summer and winter shades. My winter bottle is halfway through, and this is my summer bottle. It's about a quarter of the way through because I bought this quite late on this year and didn't get to use it much. But I love everything about this foundation. It's the perfect level of like medium coverage. It's super natural on the skin. It's like seamless. It covers everything I want it to. Redness, discoloration, gives me an even finish, but without looking heavy or cakey. It's seamless on the skin. It blends beautifully. The packaging is just glorious. I have perfect shades in winter and in summer, which is really matters to me because that's hard for me to achieve as far as undertones. I love the texture, the consistency. I just love everything about it. But the special thing for me is the finish. The finish is just exactly perfect for what I look for. It wears very well. I don't have to set it, and it's just glorious. It's glorious on camera, in photos, in person. It's when it looks its absolute best because it's just so natural and it just looks like you haven't even got foundation on because it's so skin-like and realistic. And I'm just obsessed. As you can tell, I'm obsessed. It's my favorite ever and the love of my life. Another foundation that was from Tom Ford this year that smashed it out the bag. This is the Soft Matte Foundation. You guys know I don't like anything that is matte really, but this has the word matte in it, and yet here it is in my yearly favorites, beating out lots of other glowier foundations. Now, this is definitely not my nightmare type of matte. It's definitely a soft matte, a matte with some luminosity to it. It's more full coverage than its little sister over here, but it has that quality to it that I still will reach for this fairly regularly, despite it being more matte, because it looks glorious on camera because it is a more matte foundation, and glowy foundations can look a bit too shiny on camera under lights and things like that. It's perfect for any kind of evening out or drinks or dinners or any time when you might be under photography or flash photography or lights. It photographs a dream. It's never going to let you down. It's my new go-to for like evenings. Again, I have perfect winter and summer shades, which is very important. I like the packaging. It's totally different to the Shade and Illuminate. It's obviously not as flashy, hence why this is like half the price. It's got that twist up, which does get a little bit messy, but it's, you know, very easy to see how much you've used up. So it does have pros and cons to it. But yeah, my favorite ever matte foundation. Another one that I really loved this year was the Estee Lauder Futurist. This is very similar to the Tom Ford as far as finish, as far as coverage, as far as how it wears, but the difference is that this does not flatter me on my forehead, and that's what I spoke about in my review, hence why this one edges it for me, just because it's much more flattering on my forehead lines, as this one tends to kind of creep in there a little bit, but otherwise it ticks all the same boxes as the Tom Ford for me. And now a couple that are like kind of wild cards. Now the Chanel Le Beige the Chanel Le Beige Healthy Glow Foundation, Hydration and Longwear. Bit of a mouthful. I think this is gorgeous on the skin. The finish, the glow, the luminosity is just stunning, and I love the finish of it. It's just very, very beautiful on the skin, very natural, very glowy. The couple of reasons why I don't love this as much as the Tom Ford is just the longevity. It doesn't wear as well, and I do love this the most when I set this. And you know I don't love to have to set foundations, but for me, when this is set with my La Mer powder, it's glorious, and then it does wear long enough for me. I wouldn't suggest this if you want a really long wearing foundation, ironically, as it has the word long wear in the title. Maybe it wears better on people with drier skin. For me, this is one I have to set, but when I do set it, it's heavenly, glorious, beautiful. And last but not least, a bit of an odd one. This is the YSL Touche Éclat Le Teint Creme. I don't know what to tell you about this one, but I haven't really talked about it on my channel since I reviewed it because really weird stuff happened with this foundation. It came out in like 3 or 4 shades or something on YSL UK's website, and it was sold out almost like within a few hours. I picked one up, got very excited, saw a new foundation, grabbed it, then noticed the weird fact that there was only a few shades, then the fact that it was sold out, and also the fact that it was nowhere else for sale. So I reviewed it, but then nobody could find it after my review, and that was very, very strange. And now this seems to have popped back up. I think it's on Selfridges, but is it? I'm not convinced as to whether it's the same product or not, because mine says on the bottle Le Teint Creme, and on the bottle that's on Selfridges it just says Le Teint. So I don't know if they just changed, you know, maybe that release on their website was a little experiment and they've decided to remove creme from the name. I don't know. It looks to be the same bottle, same description, etc., but the word creme is not there, and this one called Le Teint Creme is just nowhere anymore. But if this is the same foundation, who even knows what's happening? If this is the same foundation that I have and that I reviewed, I've been using this a lot more recently because it's in my winter shade, and it's gorgeous. It's really grown on me. It's got gorgeous coverage. It wears pretty decently. It's beautiful and natural on the skin. Medium coverage. Again, it ticks all my boxes. It's medium coverage. It's glowy and luminous and natural and skin-like and smooth as silk. So this is like definitely one of my favorites at the moment, but I just don't know whether to tell you or link it because it doesn't have the exact same wording that this bottle has on it. So, but I feel like I have to include it because I love it. It's just so glorious. Now, there were 2 concealers I liked this year, but one I liked so much more, I just decided to include that one, and it's the Pat McGrath Concealer. It's my holy grail. You guys know this. I did enjoy the Hourglass, but I'm not including it in this video because this one for me was the standout, and this one for me is my favourite concealer of all time. So why include second place? Is how I felt. It's the perfect amount of coverage. I use a small amount, blend it out, and it covers all of my dark circles, discoloration, without feeling or looking heavy. It feels like nothing. It's very, very light to apply, very easy to apply. I love the wand size. It's very, very nice and small, and it lasts and wears all day without creasing on me. So yeah, holy grail concealer, the only one really that I use anymore, and it was an absolute find this year. Likewise, the powder, the only powder I'm including this year, and it is the Pat McGrath powder. Again, you guys know this is my holy grail for setting my under eye, for setting the center of my face, all of my concealer areas. It's really the only powder I ever use these days. I'm obsessed with it. I absolutely love it. It's so smoothing. It adds a little bit of coverage just to brighten the under eye, but nothing heavy. It's very, very smoothing and refining, like areas around my nose where I have some texture, on under eye lines, and it sets and keeps concealer in place all day. It's just perfect for me. 2 mascaras to rule them all this year. You know what they are. It's the Charlotte Tilbury and the Pat McGrath Dark Star. These are the only mascaras I use these days. This is like my daytime fluttery, lifted, separated, pretty lash, and this is my big bang, bold, fat lash preference for mascara. These are the 2, day and night, if you will, prettier, more dramatic, depending on how I feel, what my eye makeup is doing. Today I reached for this one because I did a dramatic mascara look and I felt it needed some big fat lashes. But yeah, these are my two ultimate favourite mascaras, and both of them came out this year. What a year for makeup. So many holy grails in this selection. It's been a year for makeup and life. Two bronzers again made it into my holy grail list this year, and both brand new for 2020. First up, the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer, my favourite matte bronzer of all time. I quite enjoy a matte bronzer because I use a glowy luminous foundation, maybe a highlight as well, sometimes glowy blush is as well. So I feel like my bronzer sometimes needs to be bronze. My bronzer sometimes needs to be matte to give some kind of balance and, you know, light and shade to the face. Otherwise, everything is just glowy. And don't get me wrong, sometimes we go there. We have done today. In fact, everything is just glowy, 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 glowy today. And I'm all right with it. But sometimes I want a little bit of balance. I want a more matte cheek bronzer, etc. So this is my holy grail for that one. I've used it to death. I've never touched pan. It doesn't even seem to have a dent in it. I can't wait to see how long this is going to last me because I used it to death and it just doesn't seem to be going anywhere, but I love everything about it. It's just blends out seamlessly. I love the undertone, is that more reddy tone that I love. And yeah, holy grail. Likewise, the Gucci bronzer. You guys know this is the bronzer I've got on today. My absolute favourite. It is the more glowy of the two, but again, it's got that reddy undertone. It's a dream to blend out. It looks natural on the skin and it's not shimmery. It's just got glow and luminosity and natural skin-like finish to it. It's almost like it doesn't look like you've bronzed. It's just that you've caught the sun in the exact areas that you wanted to in just perfect place. And I can use this summer and winter as well, which is quite rare. Both of these bronzers, in fact, I can use summer and winter because they're both super buildable and blendable. So I can use them very, very lightly, or I can build them up and they'll work for me. So that is an absolute bonus. And this packaging, I mean, it's just like a little pot from Tiffany's. Love it. Next up, we have 4 highlights, which is, you know, more than I would love to include in this video, but it was the year of Holy Grail highlights for me, and I can't deny it. First up, one of, if not my absolute favourite, is the Charlotte Tilbury. It's just glorious. It's so me as a highlight. It's the perfect level of glow and it's the perfect shade. It really seamlessly blends into my skin. It's glorious. It can be super natural or really beaming, but never too much, never too metallic, never intimidating. It's just seamlessly blends into the skin and gives you as much or as little glow and light as you like. This is the one I'm wearing today, the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude Glow. This is the one that I tend to go for when I want a bit more than I usually do. So today I've gone, you know, full glow ahead, full steam glow ahead. And this is the one that I wanted to use. And I think it's glorious. It's perfect in inner corners and for pops. And just when you're feeling a bit extra, because it's very, very smooth, doesn't add texture or enhance texture, but it is like the maximum level of glow that you can achieve without kind of getting into glittery or shimmery or metallic or enhancing texture too much. And this is just, it's so, so beautiful. Similarly, but very differently in some ways, the Pat McGrath highlight, just the most luxurious, glorious highlight. I don't think that many people are as in love with this one as I am. I think it's just something about the shade maybe suits my skin tone more. This one I like to use before bronzer, before blush. Most of my highlights I use in between bronzer and blush. It's like my middle step. This one I use before bronzer, otherwise it can kind of make my bronzer go a bit grey or muddy. But if I use this first, I don't have any issues, and then it's just the most glorious glow. I really thought that Pat's highlight would be beaming metallic seen from space, not for me. But this is so much softer and more luminous than anything. It's very, very natural and just very smooth and subtle and understated, but in the most beautiful, pretty way. I find like whenever I use this one, I find myself just seeing and noticing it all day long and noticing how pretty and soft it is like throughout the day, which is not a common thing for me. And then last but not least, the one I've loved the longest is the Guerlain Terracotta Nude highlight powder. This is so beautiful. I think I prefer this in my summer skin tone, because in my winter skin tone, it's just a hair more subtle than it is on my summer skin. In my winter skin, it's kind of too close to my skin tone, I feel like, whereas in summer it's a bit brighter, so you notice it more, and it's just the perfect level of glow. It's almost too subtle for me in my winter skin, hence why I'm preferring some of these others at the moment. But oh, all through summer, this was it for me, and this is still it for me for school run days, for no makeup days, because it just doesn't look like you're wearing a highlight. It just looks so natural, and just a hint, it doesn't look like this, it looks like just the softest hint of light to the face, and it's just so understated and pretty and easy. You can never put too much, you know, it's just never going to be blinding too much, taking over in your face, toning it down. It's just so elegant and just the perfect one. If you don't want to look like you're wearing highlight, this is the one for you. But a very good year for highlights. And now for blush, and obviously again I've got 4, and that's again more than I would love to include, but you know, blush is hard because there's all so many different colours that it's very hard to choose just a couple. And you guys know blush is one of my favourite, if not my favourite steps when it comes to makeup, so you know, I bought a lot of blush this year, as per every year. First up is Nars's Orgasm X. So you guys know I don't love Orgasm, the original blush from Nars, but this one is just me. I mean, you can see that gorgeous coral shade that is just so beautiful and luminous. You don't need a highlight, you can just use this, and it's just the perfect blush. I love this in summer, but it's glorious in winter as well. I don't kind of really believe in only wearing certain shades in certain seasons, and this is one of my favorite blushes of all time. It's always in my top drawer. The blush I'm wearing today, and probably my favorite blush maybe of all time, maybe between this one and the next one I'm going to mention, but certainly right up there with my all-time favorite blushes. And this is Hourglass's At Night blush. It's the blush I have on today. It's just perfect. It's exactly everything I love about blushes. It's glowy and luminous, but not glittery. It's smooth and skin-like as far as finish. It's seamless. It's very hard to explain the colour of this one. It's kind of a sort of reddish corally shade, but it's so easy. It's never too much. It's always like a bit natural, and it will go with any eye look, any lip that I want to do. It's not so peachy, corally, orangey like Orgasm X. I feel I can't wear it, say, with a super green eye. It's going to work with any eyeshadow or lipstick, and it's not going to fight it. It's just the easiest blush, and I just absolutely love everything about it. Probably, if not one of my top favourite blushes ever, as is the Chanel Le Chains blush. We had to wait a long time for this one, Chanel, in the UK, and when it arrived, I'm not going to say it's worth the wait, because I'd still much rather it had just come out here when it came out in the US. It's never worth the wait for me. But I certainly felt it was worth the hype and the expectation that I personally had for it. It's just glorious. I love that it's giant, so I don't feel like it's going to run out, because this is limited edition. But yeah, it's just beautiful. Much like the Hourglass At Night, although this is much more of a sort of neutral, bronzy, coppery type of tone. Again, will go with any eyeshadow, any look that you're doing. It's never going to fight or clash with it. It's just the perfect, soft, natural, but you can build it up and get a bit of a pop to the cheeks as well, and it just never looks too heavy. It's so pretty, and I love that pattern on there. It's just an easy blush. I like to feel with blushes that I can just go ham and I'm not going to end up looking like a clown, and those two, that's how I feel about them. Next up, this little cheek palette from Chantecaille just had my heart. One of my earliest loves from this year, and it's made it all the way through to the end, with me still adoring both the highlight and the blush. They are just both so perfect and pretty. The highlight has got some serious glow to it. The blush is much more of a natural finish, has some luminosity, but it's not shimmery at all. And I think it will just last forever because it's that baked formula. It is kind of slightly flattening out now, a hint with the pattern, but I feel like it will just last and last and last, which is good because it is expensive. And this packaging, it will be so sad when this runs out. And now I have a couple of cheek palettes this year that I especially loved, and I'm sure you guys know exactly which ones it's going to be. First up, it's the Nars, what's this one called? The Hot Fix palette. Now I went nuts for this one. Everyone else was raving about the Hourglass palette. This is the one that I love and adore. It's just, it's so wearable every day of your life and quite versatile because you can use these blushes on the eye, and it's the same thing with the highlight because they're kind of that sort of neutral tones, bronzy tones, that you could really use this to do your entire face if you want to take this for travel. The highlight is beaming, like a little beaming for my normal comfort zone, but it's very beautiful and used lightly and blended out. It's gorgeous. So it's rare to find a cheek palette where you'll use and love everything in it, but this is one of those palettes for me, and this packaging is to die for. Now I can't find this anywhere anymore. I think it was limited edition. I think it's pretty much gone now, but if you can find it, you see it somewhere, snap it up because you won't be disappointed. Every shade in there is just heavenly. And I know you're going to know what this one is. It's the Hourglass Sculpture Ambient Lighting Palette. My favourite one from Hourglass, it is the Absolute Dogs. I just love every product in here works on my skin tone. I know we've talked about many times how Hourglass really must, I'm not even going to say needs to, I'm going to say must do better with these palettes and in general when it comes to their powders, because this does work for my skin tone and that's about it. Well, lighter, you'll be fine. A medium skin tone, about. Beyond that, no chance. And yeah, and even then, maybe you'll be able to use the bottom shades, the bronzer and blushes, but not these powders. It's glorious. The highlight is one of my favourite highlights ever. The bronzer is one of my favourite bronzers ever. The blushes I love, the finishing powders, we know them, they're, you know, existing shades. I think this is just the perfect palette for me and for my skin tone. But do I think it's good enough in 2020, the end of 2020 now, that we again saw the same palette catering to the same one skin tone of people? I think previously my kind of approach with dealing with this is to talk about it and talk about the products, but let me know what you think, because I know some people think that the right approach is not to even buy anything from Hourglass anymore until they rectify the situation, not to talk about the products, not to review the products. Previously, what I've done is buy the products, see what I think, whether they'll work for deeper skin tones than mine or not, and then talk about the inclusivity. That's just kind of been my approach up until now. But I'm listening, and I'm willing to listen and learn as to whether people think it would be better for me just to not give them my money or any airtime at all. I'm here to learn whether you guys think which of those is the best approach for me. And now we have eyeshadows, and I've chosen my top 8 palettes to talk about from the year. I just felt like I couldn't cut it down any more than that, and it is way more than I wanted to include, but I just couldn't do it any less, if I'm honest. First up, let's talk about this bad boy, the eyeshadow I'm wearing today. You guys know how much I love this palette. It is my favourite ever, probably, eyeshadow palette. It just always gives me a lot of joy. I always love every look I do with it. It just is the best of the best to me. And I'm super glad that she's around. Yes, not in the pink packaging, but she's around for anyone who wants to get their mitts on her. Unlike this little bad boy. This is Charlotte Tilbury's Fire Rose. It's like a really tiny, smaller, more muted version of Divine Rose 2. There's similar tones in there, you know. I absolutely love this as a quad. It's so beautiful and it's so unique in the way that you can use this so easily for daytime and so easily for like full-on glam. It's very versatile for being just a quad, just because of the combinations of textures, finishes and shades in here. I love it. You can look at this and you can just see that this is my shades, my tones. I absolutely adore it. Why it's limited edition, I will never know, because I didn't really buy many quads from Charlotte Tilbury. Quads are not really my thing. Palettes without mattes are not really my thing, and this one just ticked all the boxes for me, and I don't understand why it's gone when it's like her best quad, in my opinion, and lots of other people's opinions too. It's still available on the UK website at the point of filming, but apparently it's gone from the US one, so I really hope it becomes permanent because it's just glorious. The two quads from Pat McGrath's holiday collection that I picked up, Interstellar Icons. Oh my God, what were the chances that was going to be the one that I opened as I said that? That never happens to me. But there you go. She's glorious. She's beautiful. It offered me something different. I didn't really have this blue from her brand. And yeah, I've said before, it's not my favourite of the two that I picked up because I feel like the other one is a little bit more me and a little bit more finished or complete as a palette. But oh, I do love using it. It's just heaven to use. But this bad boy, Risque Rose, I love her almost as much as I love Divine Rose too. Apparently, the way into my heart is to put the word rose in the name and you'll be mine. This one, I just can't say enough about it. It's just stunning and perfect. The fact that you get one of each formula, satin, a matte, a shimmer and a celestial shade. It's Italian made. It's the perfect dream shades and combinations. It's very versatile. Tone it up, tone it down, do different looks with only 4 shades. One of, if not the best performing palette I have in my collection. It's just absolutely glorious. That's all I have to say. Next up, one of the highlights of my year, Mel's palette with Sydney Grace. Just an absolute delight and a joy, not just to receive this palette and use this palette and look at it and enjoy it and breathe it in, but to see Mel getting so much success this year and being able to work with one of her favourite brands that she so much deserves. The whole experience and launch for me was an absolute joy, but the palette just really lived up to that joy for me. Absolutely love this. It pushes me, it challenges me to use shades I wouldn't have used before I owned that. And that, I mean, what more can you want from a palette? It gives you something you don't already have, but something you're excited to use. Just perfection. The 2 midi palettes that I love from Natasha Denona this year, my favourites, Glam and Bronze. I feel between these 2 palettes you could pretty much have everything you could ever need. Cool tones and warm tones, and mix them together. I feel they work beautifully together. I think they pair very nicely together. Obviously you guys know that Glam is my favourite because it's just, I prefer the cooler versus the warmer tone. They're just more me, but both are just a treat and a joy and just so beautifully put together. I feel like Natasha does colour stories just perfectly, like all the shades, the way she puts these together, the combinations, the formula, everything about it. What happened? And last but not least from the eyeshadow world is Celestial Divinity. She's just a treat. She's a joy. Again, a bit like the Mel Sydney Grace palette. Really a lot of shades in here that are not my usual go-to shades that I feel confident and comfortable using, but I still want to use them because they're fun and beautiful and look gorgeous on the eye, and it's just like something I love to play with. It's just so much fun. Again, I've never done a look with this palette that I haven't enjoyed. It's just an absolute treat, and I love that it's something so different from the brand. So that's all my eyeshadows, and we only have lip products to go, and I was good with my lips. Let me tell you, I cut it down. I was very strict, and I've only got really 4 to tell you about. First up, one of my all-time, if not my all-time favourite formula, the YSL Slim Glow Mattes that came out this year. I don't agree that they're mattes. I don't know why we keep calling them Slim Glow Mattes, because they're a glowy, beautiful satin to me. These are just glorious. I have the shade 213 and 210, and 213 is my favourite. They smell like utter heaven. I know you guys told me it's supposed to be something peach, I think, but to me it smells like Turkish delights. Oh, it's just glorious. But the chilly shade 213 is like one of my favourite nudes or everyday shades of life. It's so comfortable. The bullet is so easy to apply. Everything about it I love. It wears very nicely. It's not sticky. It's comfortable. It feels hydrating. What more could you possibly want? And a couple of formulas or products from Lisa Eldridge this year. This whole collection was like the highlight of my year. I'm wearing Velvet Affair today, and this is like, I bought several products from her collection, but this was the highlight for me. Velvet Affair It's my perfect favourite nude of all time. I love it. As a matte, it's very comfortable. I find it very easy to apply. It's just the perfect shade, I feel, for my skin tone, and I could just wear it every day of my entire life. It was exactly what I hoped it would be. The gloss I absolutely love. It really exceeded my expectations. I don't know that I expected to like it as much as I do, but it's just the perfect whack it on for the school run product. It's comfortable, it's Your Lips but better. It's enough pigment so that it sort of tones everything down if you have a quite pigmented lip like I do, and it's just looks so luscious and plumping and glorious and glossy without any stickiness, any just, you know, I love it. And last but by no means least, the Fenty Slip Shines, one of my favourite lip products of the year. One of my favourite lip formulas for like every day. That sort of glowy, glossy, balmy type formula is like my favourite type of lip product to wear day to day. That sort of balm but with some colour, that's my jam for most days, you know. Weekdays, that's how I roll. And these are like my favorite of that category. My favorite shade, Cookies and Cream, the perfect everyday whack it on. Is it lipstick? Is it balm? Her lips just super luscious. It's just a joy. So there you have it. Those are all of my absolute favorite products of 2020. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let us know what your absolute favorite products were from this mega year in makeup and in history. But you know, that's for another day. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'd love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye 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 bye.